My hand trembled slightly as I held the phone. On the laptop screen, 7,000 people were watching my live stream. On the other end of the line, my son's breath was ragged through the speakerphone. "Mom, turn off that live stream." Right now, Grant's voice was strained, no longer the obedient son I had raised for 45 years, but a person panicking because the truth was about to be exposed. "Hello, dear." I kept my voice calm. "Do you want to talk to the 7,000 people who are watching?" "You're slandering me." "Slandering?" I pressed play. Grant's voice echoed from the recording. "We need to make her genuinely lose her mind. Switch her medication, hide things. In a month, any doctor will confirm she has dementia." "Perfect!" That was Sabrina's voice, my daughter-in-law. "When she goes into the nursing home, we access all her accounts." Silence on the other end. The chat box exploded. "OMG! What kind of family is this? Justice for Grandma! Where is the FBI?" "Do you know what's funny?" I said slowly. "I'm not as poor as you thought. I have $2.2 million in offshore accounts, plus 3 properties totaling $1.5 million. "No way," Grant whispered. "All of it. I intended to leave to you. Because I loved you unconditionally," my voice caught. "Until I discovered. You were just waiting for me to die. Mom, see you at the Maricopa County Courthouse." I hung up. I looked straight into the camera. Now 8,000 people were watching. "Hello, I am Helena Archer, 70 years old. Tonight, I will tell the true story of how my family plotted to destroy me." I smiled for the first time. But they woke up the wrong person. If this story touches you even a little, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next part, where all the pieces start to fit together. Want to know why a mother is willing to take her own son to court? Join me as we go back to the beginning, the day when love was still real. March 1980, Chandler, Arizona. The waiting room at St. Mary's Orphanage smelled faintly of disinfectant, mixed with the aroma of freshly baked cookies. John, my husband at the time, and I sat on hard plastic chairs, gripping each other's hands until our knuckles were white. 8 years. 8 years of trying to have a child. 8 years filled with disappointment, tears, and unanswered questions. Why us? The doctor said my uterus couldn't sustain a pregnancy. The cold medical terms couldn't touch the pain of watching other mothers hold their babies while my arms remained perpetually empty. "What do you think the baby will be like?" I asked, my voice shaky. "Maybe he'll have beautiful eyes like yours," John smiled, gently stroking my hair. "Or a warm smile like yours," I replied. The door opened. The social worker, Maria Rodriguez, was carrying a boy about 2 years old. His brown hair was unruly, and his large, round eyes were full of fear. On his left cheek was a faded bruise, a vague mark of a past no one knew much about. "This is Grant," Maria said softly. "He was abandoned at the Shell gas station on the I-10 3 weeks ago. No identification, not a single note, just him, shivering and hungry, in the restroom." I looked into the boy's eyes. There was no light, only the deep-seated fear of a child who had been betrayed by the world. "He hasn't spoken yet," Maria continued. "The psychologists believe he is severely traumatized. He needs a patient family, one with enough love to wait until he is ready to open up." She paused, looking at John and me. "I have to be honest. Grant is not an easy child to raise. He might never call you Mom and Dad. It might take years for him to trust. Are you sure about this?" I stood up, walked toward Grant, and knelt down to his eye level. "Hello, dear," I said in my softest voice. "My name is Helena. This is your dad, John. We're going to take care of you, okay?" Grant looked at me, blankly, with no reaction. Then the miracle happened. He slowly raised his tiny hand and gently touched my cheek. It was light as a butterfly wing, as if checking if I was real. My heart melted at that moment. "We will be that family," I told Maria, my eyes never leaving Grant. We will wait. For as long as it takes. 3 months later, a small house in Old Town Scottsdale. Grant still hadn't spoken a word. He ate, slept, and played, but in silence, as if his voice had been stolen. Every evening I sat by his bed, singing lullabies, reading stories, and stroking his hair until he fell asleep. Every night I whispered, "You don't have to be afraid anymore. Mama is here. Mama will never leave you." John worried. "Do you think he'll be okay?" he asked one night as we lay in bed in the dark room. "Maybe he'll never be okay in the way people usually think." I looked up at the ceiling. "Maybe he will carry those scars for the rest of his life. But I will love him every day until he believes he deserves to be loved." John hugged me. "I love you, Helena, and I believe in you." One June afternoon, which I will never forget. We were sitting in the backyard. The Arizona sunset painted the sky gold. I was making tea. John was reading the Arizona Republic. Grant was pushing the red toy car I bought at Target. Suddenly, Grant looked up, staring right at me. His lips parted. "Ma, Ma." I dropped the teapot. Water spilled all over the wooden floor, but I didn't care. John dropped the newspaper, his eyes wide. "Mama," Grant repeated, a small smile appearing on his face, his first smile in 3 months. I ran to him, knelt down, and hugged him tightly. I cried, my whole body trembling, crying from pure happiness. I knew, after all that waiting, this child had begun to trust me. "Yes, my love," I whispered into his soft hair. "Mama is here. Mama is here now, and will never leave you." John knelt down and hugged both of us. Under the sunset, we laughed and cried. A family. Finally, a family. The following years were the most beautiful years of my life. Grant slowly opened up. From a silent child, he became an active, curious boy, full of energy. At 5 years old, Grant started kindergarten at Desert Shadows Elementary. On the first day, he held my hand tightly. "Mama, I'm scared. I'm afraid the other kids won't like me." I knelt down, looking straight into his eyes. "Listen to Mama. You are the bravest child I know. You've been through so many hard things, yet you still smile. You still believe. Any child would be lucky to be your friend." That afternoon, Grant rushed out of the school gate, shouting, "Tommy Chen, Lisa Martinez, Jake Wilson," 3 new names. "Mama, I have 3 friends." I hugged him, my heart overflowing with happiness. There are moments when happiness is like the Chandler sky in June, crystal clear, warm, and makes us forget that dark clouds can still gather on the horizon. At that time, I didn't know that a tiny seed was silently taking root, a seed that years later would sprout into a storm. Grant's 10th birthday, a memory that haunts me to this day. It was the time I sacrificed the most, and also the happiest. We were not rich. John worked as a mechanic at Muller's Auto Shop, earning about $45,000 a year. I worked sales at Target, picking up extra evening shifts at Walgreens, totaling around $32,000. Grant wanted a Transformers-themed birthday party, and I was determined to make it happen. I took on extra night shifts at Denny's on Scottsdale Road, from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., 4 nights a week. 4 continuous hours of serving, drunk customers, long-haul truckers, the lonely people of the night. My feet ached excruciatingly. I was 54 years old, and my body was not what it used to be. Many nights I would get home at 2:30, sit in the car, and cry from exhaustion. Every time I wanted to give up, I opened my wallet, looked at Grant's picture, that smile, those bright eyes, and I kept going. After 6 weeks, I saved enough $480, just enough to rent the venue, buy decorations, and make the 3-tier Optimus Prime cake myself. 7 continuous hours for the cake. My fingers were blistered from hot frosting burns. My back ached as if it would break from leaning over for too long, and my eyes were blurry from lack of sleep. But when it was finished, it was beautiful, truly beautiful. On his birthday, when he saw the cake, Grant's eyes lit up like fireworks. "Mama! The most beautiful cake in the world. Mama is the best." He ran and hugged me tightly. "I love you, Mama. I love you so much." In that moment, every drop of sweat, every sleepless night, every ache was worth it. "Mama loves you too, Grant," I whispered, "more than anything in the world." But there was a tiny moment during the party, so small that I should have missed it, that became the first crack. Tommy Chen, Grant's best friend, blew out the candles with him. I heard Tommy whisper, "Wow, your parents must be rich. That cake must cost hundreds of dollars." Grant looked at me, then down at the cake. "It's not. Mama made it by hand." "Made it by hand? Does that mean your family can't afford to buy one?" I saw Grant's face freeze, only for a second, but I saw it. Shame. Shame that we weren't rich. "Grant, eat your cake." I steered the conversation, trying to cover it with a layer of cheerfulness. But the seed had fallen to the ground. The seed of comparison, of dissatisfaction, of the twisted belief that love is not enough without money. I should have talked to Grant that very day, that value doesn't lie in money, that gratitude is the greatest gift one can give themselves. But I didn't. I told myself, it's just a fleeting moment. He's young. He'll understand when he grows up. I was wrong. That was not a fleeting moment. That was the beginning of the road leading to the living room at 2 a.m, where the child from all those years ago whispered his plan to destroy me for money. That evening, under the birthday candles, I didn't know that. I just held my son and thought, this is complete happiness. I was wrong. Happiness is never complete. It is merely the calm before the next storm. Tuesday, April 15th, 2025. Mayo Clinic Hospital, Phoenix. I sat on the cold examination chair, wrapped in a thin paper gown. The room smelled faintly of antiseptic, the fluorescent light buzzing softly, a sound only noticeable when everything is too quiet. Dr. Daniel Mercer, our family doctor for 20 years, took my blood pressure. He was different today. His hand shook slightly as he wrapped the cuff. His eyes avoided mine, and his forehead was beaded with sweat, even though the air conditioning was cool. "Mrs. Archer," his voice was strained, "everything looks very good." He opened the screen, reading slowly. "Blood tests are perfect. Cholesterol, 165, blood sugar 92. Liver, kidneys, thyroid within limits, heart is strong, blood pressure 118/76. Cognition is sharp." Then, for the first time in the examination, he looked straight at me, emphasizing every word. "You have many good years ahead of you." The way he said "many years" sounded like a warning. "So I'm healthy?" "Very healthy, both physically and mentally. After 32 years of practice, I can confidently say you have the health of a 60-year-old. I smiled politely. He did not. As I stood up to get my purse, Dr. Mercer moved closer. A lightning-fast motion. Something was slipped into the bottom of my bag. I whirled around. He stepped back half a pace, his hands tucked into his lab coat pockets. "Be careful on your way home. Phoenix is very hot in the afternoon, and family is not always what it seems." "What do you mean, doctor?" He shook his head slightly, almost imperceptibly. "Just be careful. With your health. With everything." Then he opened the door, practically ushering me out. I stood frozen in the hallway, amidst the sounds of trolleys, nurses' shoes, and opening and closing doors. Something was very wrong. This meticulous man had just acted like a spy, and that sentence felt like an exclamation point in my chest. In the taxi driving along Camelback, my purse lay beside me like a time bomb. "Are you okay, ma'am?" The driver glanced in the rearview mirror. "I'm fine," I replied, unconvincingly. Phoenix in April was blazing with sun. Saguaro cacti stood still, the southwestern-style roofs receding behind us. Everything outside seemed normal. Only the piece of paper in my purse was burning my thoughts. Open it now or wait until I get home? I chose to wait. 15 minutes later, Arcadia, the single-story ranch house with the white picket fence, which John and I bought in 1985, was quiet. Grant's Toyota Camry was parked in the garage. Through the living room window, I saw Grant, Sabrina, and Lila sitting close together at the table, heads bowed low, whispering something. I opened the door and walked in. Silence suddenly fell like someone had flipped a switch. Grant jumped, then forced a smile. "Mama's home!" Sabrina quickly gathered some papers and hid them behind her back, a move so clumsy it was hard not to notice. Lila glued her eyes to her phone. "What did the doctor say, Mama?" Grant asked, his voice half a tone higher than usual. "Good. Dr. Mercer said I'm healthy. I have many good years ahead." The glance exchanged between Grant and Sabrina was not relief. It was disappointment. Lila smiled, echoing the exact phrase. "That's wonderful news, Grandma. You have plenty of time to enjoy life with us." Enjoy life sounded like they were referring to a sentence. "What were you discussing?" "Nothing, Mama." "Just my work stuff," Grant replied too quickly. But how could Sabrina and Lila be having a meeting about Grant's work stuff together? "Let me cook dinner," Sabrina unexpectedly offered, jumping up. This woman, who hadn't voluntarily cooked in 10 years, suddenly wanted to today? "I can do it myself." "You rest. You must be tired from the appointment." She smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. Dinner was the most awful meal. Spaghetti carbonara from a box, reheated, 4 people around the table, yet it felt like there was an invisible 5th person sitting in the middle. Grant kept his head down, giving monosyllabic replies. "Yes. Fine. Okay." Sabrina answered with single words. Lila clutched her phone despite my reminder to put it away. Every few minutes they looked at each other, a quick flash, as if sending a silent signal. "Is something wrong?" I put down my fork. "No," Grant answered instantly. "Just tired." Nothing was normal. After dinner they scattered. Grant went upstairs. Sabrina stepped onto the balcony to make a call. Lila closed her room door. I stood alone in the kitchen, my hands in the warm dishwater. Through the window was the backyard, where Grant used to play when he was little, where John and I used to drink morning coffee. Something had changed. Not today. Perhaps it had been a long time, and I had only just noticed it. 10 o'clock at night. I locked the bedroom door and sat on the bed. I pulled everything out of my purse: wallet, keys, sunglasses, a packet of tissues. And then I saw it. The paper folded twice, light as a feather, but heavy as lead. I slowly opened it. Dr. Mercer's handwriting, this time neat and clear. "Dear Mrs. Archer, my conscience does not allow me to remain silent. On April 14th, Sabrina and Grant came to see me privately, claiming you showed severe signs of cognitive decline. Forgetting to turn off the stove, not recognizing acquaintances, unusual behavior. They wanted me to write a confirmation that you require 24/7 specialized care in a medical facility, and asked about inheritance rights, accessing bank accounts, and the procedure for them to become your legal guardians. I refused. I confirmed you are completely lucid." Sabrina became visibly angry. Grant said he would find another doctor who listens. I do not know what else they are planning, but they are certainly not asking out of concern for your health. They are asking about legal power and money. Do not go home. Find a safe place. Call a lawyer. Protect yourself. Run. Dr. Daniel Mercer. The paper slipped from my hand. I had to place my hand on my chest to remember to breathe. The words hammered in my head like a hammer. Nursing home, inheritance, bank accounts. This was not a misunderstanding. This was a plan. I sat in the dark, clutching the crumpled paper. For the first time in 45 years, I asked myself, does my son truly love me? Or am I just an obstacle between him and what he wants? I did not have the answer, but I knew one thing. I would not sleep tonight, because if I slept, I wouldn't hear them coming. Sometimes the truth doesn't knock. It pulls the circuit breaker. The house is still lit, but the power in the heart is out. If I was right, everything I called family was just a facade. And to survive, I had to listen very closely, like listening for a single drop of water in a silent house at 2 a.m. I tidied the room as usual, turned off some lights, leaving only the soft yellow nightlight on. Everything was so quiet, I could hear the clock ticking clearly. I placed the note in an envelope, hid it under the lining of a drawer, put my phone on the bedside table, with the recording feature ready with one touch. In my bones, I knew they would talk when they thought I was sound asleep. 2 a.m, the hour when all secrets slip from the tongue. I lay on my side, eyes open, counting my breaths. I will hear everything, and when the sun rises, I will no longer be the woman who walked out of the doctor's office with a polite smile. I will be the woman who is waking up. Near 47 a.m. I lay in the dark, my eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. The room was silent in the manner of the Arizona desert. No insects, no wind, only my own heart pounding in my ears. I was still wearing long pants and a thin sweater, ready for something I hadn't yet named, flee or confront. My phone was hidden under my pillow. I had tested the recording mode 3 times just to be sure. Any slight hum from the refrigerator or the air conditioner turning on made my heart skip a beat. 1:52 a.m. Footsteps descended the stairs. Light, then heavier. Grant, followed by a third rhythm, Lila. 3 people. At that hour. It couldn't be a coincidence. I crept up, stepping like a cat on the wooden floor, carefully avoiding the creaky planks. My bedroom door opened silently. I had oiled the hinges yesterday afternoon, as if some part of me knew this moment was coming. Kitchen light from downstairs shone through the stairwell gap. Then I heard Sabrina's voice, sharp and cold. "That doctor refused to cooperate." I froze. I was explicit. She's losing her mind. Forgetting to turn off the gas, putting her keys in the fridge, not recognizing acquaintances. Yet he kept insisting she was completely lucid. Ridiculous. I knelt down, crouched behind the railing. Sabrina was sitting with a cup of coffee, in black silk pajamas. Grant was in a crumpled t-shirt, his hair messy. Lila was wearing pink pajamas, the ones I bought her last Christmas. "Calm down," Grant said. "We'll find another doctor. Phoenix is full of them." "How much longer?" Sabrina tapped the table lightly. "I can't wait." "Dad, I've secured my spot at ASU." Lila interjected, annoyed. "Tuition is due in June. I need the money. I can't wait for Grandma to get old and then die." My jaw ached from clenching my teeth. My 19-year-old granddaughter just scheduled her grandmother's death like a tuition deadline. "Don't talk like that," Grant snapped, but weakly. "It's true," Lila pouted. "Grandma spends like she's going to live another 30 years. "She might," Sabrina said. "The doctor today said her health was excellent. 95, maybe 100 wouldn't be surprising." Grant ran his hands through his hair, pacing. "Fine. We need a solid plan. Tomorrow I'll call Dr. Patricia Vasquez in Tempe. If not, then Plan B." A chill ran down my spine. Lila asked, "What's Plan B?" Grant sat down, his voice level. "We make her genuinely confused." The air thickened. "Specifically?" Lila swallowed. Grant listed the steps like a project presentation. 1. Switch her medication. Replace her vitamins with identical-looking but inert pills. 2. Hide objects, keys, wallet, Glasses. Then interrogate her. You just had it, Mama. How could you not remember? 3. Attribute non-existent actions to her. Why did you leave the gas on all night? Good thing I turned it off. 4. Rearrange small details in the house, move objects, change the clock time, to make her lose her sense of direction. Sabrina nodded, her eyes bright. Perfect. How long? Lila asked. A month, maybe 6 weeks. While doing this, we keep a diary, record accidental video clips. With enough evidence, we take her to a new doctor, and they won't be able to deny it. Then the nursing home, guardianship, finances in our hands, Sabrina murmured, the corner of her mouth twitching. We sell the house, right? Lila asked. Of course, Sabrina replied concisely. According to Zillow, $485,000. Subtracting taxes, about $440,000. They had valued the house John and I bought in 1985, paid off over 15 years, which held every memory of 40 years of marriage, with a cold, dry number. Grandma's pension? $2,800 per month, Grant answered without thinking, plus Social Security, $33,600 a year. If she lives another 20 years, $672,000. My son had factored my remaining lifespan into his calculations. Savings? $67,000 at Wells Fargo. Mama asked me to retrieve the checkbook last month, and I checked he had rummaged through my purse. So the total, about $1,179,000, Lila calculated on her phone, divided by 3, $393,000 each, Sabrina smiled, worth 10 years of putting up with her. I squeezed my hands until they were numb. The woman I cooked for every day, the grandchild I held as a baby, the son I pulled money out of my savings account for every time he was short on cash, all of them called me a burden. We have to play the role well, Grant concluded. To the outside world, we are the model family taking care of her. Don't worry, Sabrina gave a faint smile. I can cry on demand. A low, hollow laugh. The sound of accomplices. They were laughing over the plan to destroy me. I backed away from the stairs, my legs trembling, closed my bedroom door, and sat on the bed. The pain was beyond tears. 45 years of love and sacrifice exchanged for a business plan. I pulled out my phone, an 18-minute and 34-second audio file. Every sentence, every number, every malicious intent, clear as day. In that instant, something shifted within me. Not my heart. It was already shattered. It was my spine. It straightened. I was not a victim. I was a warrior. And the battle had just begun. 5 a.m. I hadn't slept a wink. But I had a plan. A small suitcase, only the essentials. Documents, savings passbooks, the notebook with account information, medication, 3 sets of clothes, a picture of John, the phone with the audio file, the note on the kitchen counter. Out to take care of some things. We'll be back later. Mama normal, without a hint of suspicion. I called a taxi to pick me up in the back alley, crossed the yard, and turned onto Chaparral. The gray Prius stopped. Wells Fargo on Scottsdale Road, I said. The driver, a Latin woman around 40 named Rosa, looked in the mirror. Are you okay, ma'am? I'm fine. For the first time in 24 hours, I smiled. Never been better. The desert sunrise stained the car windows pink. I understood that the woman who walked out of that house would not return the same. Helena Archer, the naive mother, the long-suffering grandmother, died at 2 a.m. The person sitting in the car was someone else, stronger, ready to fight, and they were about to find that out. They have a month to break my memory. I have 12 hours to break their plan. An audio file is the evidence. A good lawyer is the weapon. A well-timed appearance, where they thought they had control, will be the opening move. The car turned into the early sun. I closed my eyes for one breath, then opened them. The first battle awaited at the bank. After that, the lawyer's office. And by the time they realized it, the game board had already changed colors. I am not running away. I am repositioning. And from here, I attack. 8:02 a.m., Wells Fargo, Scottsdale Road. The bank doors had just opened. I was the first to walk in, a 70-year-old woman with a small suitcase, jeans, a white shirt, and eyes that were no longer naive. The young teller, Patricia Chen, smiled. "Good morning. How may I help you?" "I need to withdraw $5,000 in cash." Her smile faltered slightly. "This amount is large enough to be dangerous to carry around." "Is anyone forcing you? If you are experiencing—" I gently placed my hand on hers. "No one is forcing me. I am protecting myself from people who want to take my money." Patricia nodded, efficiently processing the transaction. I added, "Make a clear note in the system. Only I, Helena Marie Archer, have access. Anyone claiming to be my son, daughter-in-law, should be refused, and you must call me directly." "Yes, I will flag the account with an alert." As I received the thick, heavy envelope, I understood. This was not just money. This was freedom. It was the first weapon. And I had a second, much larger weapon, one they knew nothing about. 9:15 a.m., Starbucks on Scottsdale Road. I sat in the corner of the shop, opening the old Dell John bought in 2019. I searched for an email from 2015, the year John passed away. Subject line, "Important, please keep safe, J.A." My dearest Helena, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer here. During my years consulting for Transglobal Energy, my international fees were paid through offshore accounts, legitimate. I didn't tell you so you wouldn't worry. Currently held, Cayman Islands National Bank, $1,240,000, Banco de Portugal, $680,000, ANZ, New Zealand, $280,000, total $2,200,000. In addition, there are 3 investment properties: an apartment in San Jose, Costa Rica, $380,000, a townhouse in Porto, Portugal, $520,000, land in Queenstown, New Zealand, $600,000. Estimated total, $1,500,000. Login information and documents are in Wells Fargo Safety Deposit Box number 247. The key is hidden in the last page of the brown leather notebook. Only use this when you need to protect yourself, even from family. I love you. John. After reading, tears fell, but I didn't wipe them away. John had prepared for this day, even for my blindness. "You saved me one more time, John," I whispered softly. 10:30 a.m., Wells Fargo Private Banking. In the private room, David Thornton, a senior manager in his 50s wearing a gray suit, verified the records John had left behind. "Mrs. Archer, with 9 years of accrued interest, your current total assets are cash, $2,847,000. Real estate, current valuation, $1,780,000. Total, $4,627,000. I remained silent, letting the figures sink in. Grant thought I only had $67,000 in savings and a $485,000 house. They were ready to destroy me for approximately $1,200,000 divided by 3. Meanwhile, nearly $5 million was beyond their reach. "Mr. John requested absolute confidentiality," David said. "Only you are to know, unless you provide notarized authorization. I want to transfer $200,000 into my main account. I need it for some upcoming expenses. I will process that immediately. The funds should arrive within 24 hours. They planned for a month to break my memory. I had 12 hours to shatter their plan. Money for free movement, John's email to turn the tables, and a lawyer sharp enough to transform the audio recording into both a shield and a spear." 12:15 p.m., the Phoenician Resort, Scottsdale. The reception desk was managed by Jessica. "I need a high-floor private suite. I may stay from a week to several months. We have the Mountain View Suite on the 10th floor, 2 bedrooms, a living room, a small kitchen overlooking Camelback Mountain. The price is $650 per night. A year ago, I would have called that insane. Today, it was the price of safety. I'll take that room. And please note, if anyone asks, do not confirm I am staying here, especially anyone claiming to be family. Understood, Mrs. Archer. We maintained strict confidentiality. The 10th floor suite was spacious, with large windows overlooking Camelback. The door closed, I put down the suitcase, looked out at the city I had lived in for 45 years, and then I collapsed onto my knees. A genuine, heartbroken cry, a deep, wrenching sob. Crying for John, for the 2-year-old child from long ago, for the naive woman I once was. 20 minutes. That was enough. I washed my face, looking in the mirror. My eyes were red, my gray hair disheveled, but there was something new in my gaze. Determination. All right, Helena, I said to myself. They want a war. They will get a war. And they have no idea who they are up against. 3:47 p.m. The 12th call today, Grant. This time I answered. Mama, you finally picked up. Where are you? You said you would be... I'm in Scottsdale. At a hotel. Which hotel? Why, I need time for myself. 45 years of living for others is enough. But this isn't like Mama. That's right. The old Helena is dead. Perhaps you never knew who Mama was, and Mama needs to rediscover herself. Are you taking your medication? Are you... I clearly heard the trap. I am taking everything, and I am clearer-headed than ever. We're just worried about you, Mama. No. You are worried because you can no longer control Mama's silence. I will return when I am ready. Goodbye, Grant. I hung up, then turned off the phone. For the first time in 2 days, I smiled. The board was flipped. They hadn't even realized when the game began. The next step is the spearhead, the lawyer. Not just any okay type, but the best Phoenix can buy. And I know exactly who to find. 4:15 p.m. I opened my laptop and typed, Best Elder Abuse Attorney, Phoenix, Arizona. The top result popped up, Castillo and Associates, Elder Law and Financial Abuse Specialists. The website was clean and professional. A photo of Graham Castillo, a Latino man in his mid-50s, salt and pepper hair, with kind yet resolute eyes. The brief introduction, over 20 years handling elder abuse, financial fraud, and guardianship disputes. That was enough for me to hit call. A woman's voice. Castillo and Associates, Sarah speaking. I am Helena Archer. I need to see Mr. Castillo as soon as possible. It is an urgent situation involving elder abuse. Could you describe it briefly for me? My family is planning to have me declared incompetent to seize my assets. They have approached my doctor and intend to gaslight me into a genuine breakdown. I have full audio recordings, and I am ready to pay. Please hold. The hold music was very brief, followed by a deep, clear male voice. Mrs. Archer, I am Graham Castillo. Are you safe right now? I am at the Phoenician. They don't know. Good. What does your evidence consist of? An 18-minute recording of Grant, Sabrina, and Lila discussing how to falsify medical records, gaslighting, and misappropriation. I also have a handwritten note from Dr. Daniel Mercer at Mayo Clinic warning me of the conspiracy. In over 22 years, I have rarely encountered a case with such neat evidence. If you want to, we can win. I don't just want to win, Mr. Castillo. I want them to pay the price, and this story must help others. He gave a slight chuckle. I believe we are a good fit. 9 a.m. Tomorrow, please come to the office. Bring all the documents, prepare yourself mentally. We will build a case they won't forget. 8:30 p.m., suite on the 10th floor, door securely locked. I opened my laptop to do something risky but necessary. Start a live stream. Not for fame. I chose public exposure because light provides protection. I created the channel Helena's Truth, titled it, A 70-year-old grandmother tells the truth about her family. I clicked go live. Initially, no one watched. Then a few people. Then dozens. Then thousands. I looked straight into the camera. I am Helena Archer, 70 years old, living in Phoenix, Arizona. Tonight, I will tell the story I never thought I would have to tell, how my family plotted to destroy me. I recounted everything from the day I adopted Grant, 45 years of sacrifice, Dr. Mercer's note, and the 2 a.m. night when I heard the entire plan. The audience grew from dozens to hundreds, then thousands. Comments poured in. "You are so brave. My family did the same to my grandmother. Sue them." I played 30 seconds of the audio, enough for viewers to understand, but not a deep invasion before a ruling. I concluded, if you are suffering, you are not alone. Old age does not mean losing your rights. I am 70 years old, and I am fighting. If I can do it, you can too. I ended the broadcast, tears of relief welling up, messages flooded in from strangers, volunteer lawyers, reporters asking for interviews, children promising to protect their mothers. I knew I was no longer alone. Calls from Grant, Sabrina, and Lila came in rapid succession. I did not answer. I needed silence for the next step. Tonight, I did 3 things: secured my safety, chose my legal ally, and shone a light into the darkness. From now on, every move will have witnesses. They cannot make me disappear in silence anymore. The next morning, 9 a.m. Castillo and Associates office, 12th floor, overlooking Phoenix. Graham Castillo was tall, wearing a dark gray suit with a firm handshake. "Before we begin," he said as he closed the conference room door, "I watched your live stream last night. Did I go too far? No. An excellent move. You now have thousands of witnesses, establishing a public record of your lucidity. If they demand a competency evaluation, we have a video of you speaking coherently and arguing clearly." I breathed out. "So, shall we begin?" For 2 hours, I told him everything. Graham took rapid notes, occasionally stopping. What exact date did Dr. Mercer write the note? Have they approached any other doctors? Are there signs of abnormal financial transactions? I played the 18-minute recording. He listened in silence, his expression serious. "Preliminary conclusion," he said, his voice firm. "We don't just have a civil case, we have a criminal one. The elements include conspiracy to commit elder fraud, punishable by 5 to 10 years, financial abuse, 3 to 7 years, potential identity theft if they were to open false cards, elder psychological abuse under Arizona law, and conspiracy to falsify documents. As the main instigator, Grant faces a combined sentence potentially ranging from 10 to 15 years. Sabrina from 8 to 12 years. Lila, 19 years old, will likely receive probation and supervision, but still a conviction." The numbers echoed in the conference room. I felt pain, but I also felt justice taking shape. "Are you sure you want to pursue this path?" Graham looked straight at me. "Once filed, there is no turning back. If I do nothing, they will continue. They will find another doctor, they will genuinely break me down, lock me in a nursing home, and take everything. And they will repeat it with others. I am doing this not just for myself." He nodded. "Next step. I am bringing in the best private investigator in Phoenix, Rex Dalton, former FBI, 25 years of experience. If the family has any other secrets, Rex will find them. How long will that take? Give him 72 hours. He works very fast. What is the total cost? An estimate ranges from $150,000 to $200,000. Lawyer fees, private investigator, experts, court costs." I nodded. I could afford it. "Do it, Mr. Castillo. I want the best team, undeniable evidence, and a deserved verdict." He stood up and offered his hand. "Welcome to the team. We will fight, and we will win. For the first time in days, I felt light. I had a team, a weapon, and above all, the will. Leaving the building at 11:30, my phone rang again. Grant, the 43rd call. I answered. Mama, we have to talk. Right now? About what? That crazy live stream, you're destroying the family. Destroying the family? I gave a short laugh. Who do you think destroyed this family first? Mama, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You planned to make me lose my mind to get my money. You calculated the value of my death to be $1.2 million to be split 3 ways. I know everything, Grant silence. I added, softly but coldly. And the funny thing is, you calculated wrong. Very wrong. I hung up, turned off the phone, and stepped out into the Phoenix sun with a faint smile. They wanted a war. They will have a war. But this is the kind of war they cannot win. 10 a.m., 72 hours later. Castillo and Associates office. Rex Dalton walked in, tall, bald head, sharp eyes, former FBI. And I believed it the moment I saw the way he scanned the room before sitting down. He placed a thick folder on the table. Mrs. Archer? His voice was deep and concise. Your family is worse than we thought. Graham Castillo opened his laptop, ready to take notes. I clenched my hands, taking a deep breath. Starting with Grant, Rex said, flipping the first tab. 1. Grant Archer, the truth about his job. Grant was fired from Morrison & Cole on August 15th last year. Not a restructuring, as he claimed. Reason? Embezzlement. The amount was $18,400 from the Tempe Medical Center Project Fund. Fake vendor invoices, money transferred to his personal account. The company gave him a choice: pay the money back and leave quietly, or face criminal charges. Grant chose to pay back $12,000, still owing $6,400. Source of repayment money. A portion came from a Wells Fargo credit card in my name, a card I added Grant as an authorized user to when I had knee surgery in 2022. I had forgotten to remove that authorization. He took advantage of it. Online gambling. Over 18 months, Grant wagered hundreds of thousands on betting platforms, losing $143,000. Loan shark debt. He borrowed from Scorpion Lending at cutthroat interest rates, owing $127,000. Threatening messages have mentioned the Arcadia address, mentioning me. A chill ran down my spine. Not just greed, desperation, and desperate people can do anything. 2. Sabrina Archer Rex opened the red tab, credit impersonation. Over 8 months, Sabrina opened 5 credit cards using my information, social security number, birth date, address, because my filing cabinet at home was unlocked. Total debt, $56,780 for clothes, jewelry, upscale restaurants, spas, plane tickets, and 5-star hotels. Miami vacation. They claimed they went to Florida to visit a sick mother. Photos show Miami, South Beach, champagne glasses, a red bikini, with a caption from Lila, living my best life in Miami. All with my money. Adultery. Sabrina is having an affair with Dave Ortega, a neighbor, 48 years old, husband of Carol, who still brings me cakes every holiday, for 26 months. There are regular hotel booking records, photos, and messages. Carol needs to know, I said. Graham looked up. Are you sure? It's not directly relevant to the case. I'm sure. The truth must go to the right person. 3. Lila. The green tab. 14 weeks pregnant. The baby's father is Thomas Brennan, 52 years old, a marketing executive, married for 28 years. The relationship started during a summer internship. She became pregnant in January. When informed, Thomas denied paternity. Blackmail. Lila demanded $75,000 to stay quiet. Thomas's lawyer is preparing to sue Lila for extortion, a potential sentence of 3 to 5 years. I looked at the extracted text messages. my stomach twisting. The girl I used to sing lullabies to, now using threats as a common language. Keeping the pace. The picture was clear: debt, deception, adultery, blackmail, and in the middle was me, a target legitimized by a cognitive decline report they engineered themselves. From here, the question was no longer whether to proceed, but how fast. 4. The forgery plan. Rex opened the black tab. Meeting with Owen Pike. 2 days ago, Grant met Owen Pike at the Handlebar Tavern for 47 minutes. Pike is a forgery specialist. Medical records, legal documents, wills. He has been arrested twice before. Transaction. Grant gave him $50,000 in cash for 2 tasks. To forge a Mayo Clinic record stating I have early-stage Alzheimer's, requiring 24/7 care. To forge a will from 3 years ago, leaving all assets to Grant, Sabrina, Lila. A twist of fate. Owen Pike is cooperating with the FBI. The entire transaction with Grant was recorded, both audio and video. This is federal evidence for the crime of conspiracy to commit document forgery. Graham clasped his hands. This elevates your case from civil to federal criminal. The FBI is ready to jump in, and the Maricopa County DA is also interested. Rex closed the folder, looking straight at me. Summary. Grant is drowning in loan shark debt. Sabrina stole credit and is cheating. Lila is involved in blackmail. They need your money to save themselves, so they are willing to do anything, even destroy your mind. I remained silent. 45 years of love, now summarized in these colored file tabs. Is that all? I asked. It's enough to launch a federal case, Rex replied. The rest we will supplement as the FBI opens their file. I nodded, my voice steady. Do it. Contact the FBI. Contact the DA. They chose this path, so let them see it through. Graham and Rex exchanged a glance, both nodding. We will start immediately. Within about a week, the orders will be issued. Stepping out of the office, the Phoenix sun slanted across the sidewalk. My phone vibrated. An unknown number. Mrs. Archer? I'm Special Agent Michelle Torres, FBI, Phoenix Field Office. We'd like to meet you about the matter concerning your family. 10 a.m. tomorrow. Can you come to our office? I will be there. Thank you, ma'am. And what you are doing is very brave. The call ended. I stood in the hot desert wind, feeling lighter. For the first time in many days, I felt something simple yet solid. I am strong enough. 10 a.m., Monday, FBI Phoenix headquarters. A gray building with the American flag fluttering. I walked through security, led up to a conference room on the 5th floor. Special Agent Michelle Torres, a Latina woman in her 40s, sharp black suit, gave me a firm handshake. Next to her was Special Agent David Chen, tall with a laptop and a stack of files. Graham Castillo sat beside me. Rex Dalton stood silently in the corner, his eyes missing nothing. Torres opened the file. Over the past 6 days, we have listened to all the recordings, verified the testimony from Owen Pike, and monitored Grant and Sabrina. This is one of the most clearly organized elder abuse cases our office has ever handled. She concisely read the list of federal and state charges for Grant Archer and Sabrina Archer. Conspiracy to commit elder fraud, falsifying medical records, identity theft, financial abuse of an elder, embezzlement. The maximum total sentence, Torres said, Grant could face 25 to 30 years. 35 years, Sabrina, 18 to 28 years. The room felt heavy. I asked, "What about Lila?" Chen turned the screen. Lila was a secondary participant in the conspiracy, with no prior criminal record. However, she faces an independent blackmail case from Thomas Brennan. If prosecuted, the range could be 3 to 7 years. Torres put her pen down. If Lila truly cooperates, testifying against Grant and Sabrina, submitting all evidence, showing remorse, we can negotiate for probation, community supervision, and community service. I looked straight at Torres. "I want to talk to Lila." Alone, in a public place, Graham slightly frowned. "Are you sure?" I nodded. Torres decisively. "Starbucks on Scottsdale Road, 10 a.m. tomorrow. We will arrange discreet surveillance 7:30 p.m., the suite at the Phoenician. I called Lila. 3 rings. Grandma? 10 a.m. tomorrow, Starbucks on Scottsdale Road. Just the 2 of us." Mom and Dad said, "I'm not supposed to see you." "You are 19, Lila. You can decide for yourself. And listen carefully. When everything collapses, they will blame it all on you." I heard that on the recording. A long silence. Then, "I'll be there." I put the phone down and, for the first time in years, prayed for the remaining good in my granddaughter. 10:15 a.m. the next morning. Starbucks. The door opened. Lila walked in, 15 minutes late. No heavy makeup, no designer clothes. Her hair was hastily tied back, her eyes swollen. She sat down, avoiding my gaze. "Look at me, Lila." She looked up, tears threatening to fall. "Grandma, I'm sorry." "Not yet." "First, tell the truth." Lila's hands shook as she opened her phone, placing it in front of me. Recordings, videos, messages for the last 3 months. Every time they talked about you, I recorded it. A clip played. Sabrina's voice. "The old woman has to go. Lila needs a new car for college. It's done by Christmas." The 4 words, "the old woman has to go," were cold as a knife. "Why did you record it?" I asked. "Because I was scared." They gradually changed their tone, from "she'll leave money" to "speed up the process," then to a concrete plan. I knew it was wrong, but didn't know what to do. I was taught that everything is about money, that you were stupid for giving money without demanding anything, that locking you up was normal. She choked. "Until I saw your live stream." People called my family monsters, called me an accomplice, and they were right. I laughed when I heard about you being put in a nursing home. I wanted the money to buy a car. I kept silent, letting her vent. "If you testify, your life will be difficult." "Difficult is still better than living wrongly, Grandma." She placed a hand on her stomach, an instinctive reflex. "My child cannot grow up with that kind of morality." I looked straight at Lila. "There is a condition. You must tell the FBI everything. No hiding. No protecting anyone. After that, you come and live with me. I will help you raise your child, start over, but this is your last chance. If you betray me again, it all ends," Lila cried, but this time it was with relief. "I promise." She opened a new file. "Last night they talked about putting all the blame on me." Grant's voice. "If the FBI asks, say Lila started it." "She's pregnant, needs money, manipulated us." Sabrina's voice. "Right. She's young, no record. They'll believe she's the problem, not us." I squeezed the paper cup. They were ready to throw their own daughter under the bus. At this point, 2 paths opened before Lila. Continue with her parents, becoming a scapegoat when the sentences arrived, or turn back, tell the truth, and bear the short-term cost to save herself and her child. Only one choice led her into the light. 1 week later. FBI Phoenix interrogation room. Lila sat up straight, her hands still shaking but her voice steady. Graham and I were present. Torres and Chen took notes. For 3 hours, Lila recounted every step. The gaslighting plans, the meeting with Owen Pike at the bar, the scoffing remarks about a 3-month European trip financed by my money. Over 20 audio segments, hundreds of messages. Torres closed her notebook. "With what you have provided, we have enough for a comprehensive indictment. Your father could face 12 to 18 years, your mother 10 to 15 years. As for Lila, if she continues to cooperate and accepts responsibility, we will recommend probation, community supervision, and community service. Lila cried, not out of regret for confessing, but from the realization that the old family was over. It was also the moment another family began to bloom, a family chosen by morality, not blood relation. That evening, the Phoenician. The grandmother and granddaughter watched the sunset paint Camelback Mountain orange. "Grandma, why are you still helping me?" "Because I see in you something I don't see in Grant and Sabrina. Genuine remorse, genuine admission of guilt, and a genuine desire to change. They don't regret it. They only regret getting caught." Lila leaned her head on my shoulder, a gesture she had forgotten for years. "Do you think I can become a good person?" "I don't know. But I will give you the chance to prove it." 15 a.m., 2 days later. The phone rang. "Graham." "They've been arrested. Grant and Sabrina are currently in FBI Phoenix detention. Court appearance this afternoon. How are they?" Grant cried, insisting on calling you, saying it was a misunderstanding. Sabrina was furious, saying you destroyed the family. I sighed, a humorless laugh. Even now they don't understand. Family is a privilege, not an entitlement. Abuse that privilege, and you lose it. I did not attend the court hearing. I didn't want to see handcuffs, didn't want to hear the accusations ring out in the courtroom. I had witnessed enough collapse. I stayed with Lila, brewed a pot of tea, and planned for the unborn child, a home without manipulation, a childhood taught kindness, a growth with clear boundaries. This is not the end. This is the beginning, for Lila, for the baby, and for me, a new family rebuilt on truth and respect. 6 weeks later, Maricopa County Superior Court. June was scorching hot. The courthouse hallway was packed. My story covered the newspapers. Every letter sent to me felt like a hand firmly grasping mine. You gave me the courage to leave the son who was draining my pension. Thanks to you, I reported my daughter-in-law for financial abuse. I understood. My pain was not meaningless. In the courtroom, Grant and Sabrina sat in the defendant's dock, haggard, stripped of all arrogance. Judge Diane Morrison, about 60, was stern. The evidence is clear. The audio recording from Mrs. Helena Archer, the testimony of Lila Archer, FBI documents regarding the transaction with Owen Pike, financial records proving identity theft, embezzlement, and the warning from Dr. Daniel Mercer about the attempt to falsify medical records. This is one of the most organized elder abuse cases I have ever seen. She looked at me. "Mrs. Archer, do you wish to say anything before sentencing?" I stood up. I looked at my son one last time. I have prepared this statement for weeks, but standing here, looking at Grant, I still don't know how to fully express the pain. I raised Grant from a frightened 2-year-old boy to a grown man. I thought I taught him kindness, honesty, and gratitude. Today I understand. I loved him the wrong way. I failed to teach him about consequences and boundaries. I turned to Sabrina. "I treated you like my own daughter. You repaid me by exploiting that trust time and time again." Then I looked directly at the judge. "I am not seeking revenge. I demand justice for myself and for those who are silently suffering. Millions of elders are abused every year, mostly by their own families. I ask the court to send a clear message. No one has the right to destroy a person's mind for their money. There is no justifiable reason I returned to my seat." Lila squeezed my hand tightly. The judge wrote for a few minutes before looking up. "Grant William Archer, stand up." Her voice was firm. "You are sentenced to 15 years in federal prison, no possibility of early parole, restitution of $180,000 to the victim, 5 years of probation upon release, and mandatory participation in a rehabilitation program." Grant slumped, breaking into tears. "Sabrina Marie Archer, stand up. You are sentenced to 12 years in state prison, restitution of $120,000, and mandatory participation in a similar program upon release." Sabrina stood motionless, her face white. "Lila Marie Archer," the judge continued, Considering your secondary role, full cooperation, and sincere remorse, the court accepts the plea agreement. 3 years of probation, 5 years of community supervision, 500 hours of community service at elder advocacy organizations, and mandatory psychological counseling. Violation of any term will result in 3 years in prison. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, Lila said, her voice shaky but clear. The gavel dropped. The session closed. As he was being escorted out, Grant looked back, mouthing, "I'm sorry, Mama. I love you." I nodded slightly. Not forgiveness, just an acknowledgement of the truth that had just taken place. Justice had struck its hammer, but the remaining question was the hardest. How to live from here, when the old family had collapsed and a new one had to be built on choice, not blood. 3 months later, Scottsdale. Lila gave birth to a healthy baby boy, weighing 3.4 kilograms, with blue eyes like Grant's when he was small. I held my grandson, whispering, "Hello, little John." We named him after John Archer, my husband. I promised to teach you how to love, but also how to set boundaries, and to respect before demanding affection. 1 year after the sentencing, Washington, D.C. I stood on the stage of the National Elder Rights Conference before over 800 people. I am Helena Archer, a survivor of elder abuse perpetrated by my own family. I briefly told my journey, concluding with 3 points. Self-love is not selfish. It is a condition for survival. When you are depleted, you cannot love anyone. Family is a privilege, not a right. That privilege must be maintained with respect and boundaries. Abuse it, and you lose it. It is never too late to start over. I was 70 years old when I learned how to leave, when I understood I was stronger than I thought. If I can do it, you can too. The auditorium rose in applause. An elderly woman in the front row tearfully whispered, "Thank you." After that, a long line of people waited to tell their stories. I listened to every single one. 3 years after Dr. Mercer's note, I am 73 years old, healthy and peaceful, living in Paradise Valley with Lila and little John, who is now over 2.5, running all over the house asking, "Why?" all day. I run the Silver Voices Foundation, supporting elders who escape abuse. In 3 years, we have helped over 400 cases. Lila is in her 2nd year of law at Arizona State, specializing in elder law. Her GPA is 3.8. She made the dean's list for 2 semesters, and she volunteers 20 hours a week for Silver Voices. She is different now, a good mother, a diligent student, and a woman heading in the right direction. Grant has 12 years left. I have visited him twice. The last time he said, "I'm not asking for forgiveness for getting caught. I apologize for becoming that person. I'm in therapy, reading, learning how to love correctly." I don't know if he has truly changed. I have only learned, I cannot fix others. I can only choose my boundaries and my reaction. This afternoon, in the garden, little John hugged my leg. "Love Grandma." I smiled. "I love you too." Lila brought out 2 glasses of iced lemon tea. "Grandma, I got an A on my constitutional law exam." "I'm proud of you." She hesitated. "Do you regret putting my parents in court?" I thought for a moment. No regrets, just sadness. Regret is thinking I did the wrong thing. Sadness is wishing things didn't have to reach that point. I did the right thing, but I still ache because my love for Grant couldn't save him from himself. The afternoon wind carried the scent of dry heat from Camelback Mountain onto the porch. We sat in silence, listening to little John's delighted laughter. I realized this is the real family, not perfect, but real, built on choice, respect, and love with boundaries. The woman named Helena Archer finally learned her life's lesson. Loving others is important. Loving yourself is essential. Family is a gift, not an obligation to endure abuse. Forgiveness is precious, but boundaries are a prerequisite. And sometimes, the greatest act of love is daring to say no to the person who wants to destroy you, no matter who they are, even family. this is not the end. This is the beginning. If Helena's story touched you, please hit subscribe so you won't miss what comes next. Each week, we share new stories about boundaries, healing, and justice for the vulnerable. Turn on the bell to get new videos, leave a comment to tell me where you're listening from, and share this with someone who needs it today. Thank you for being here. See you in the next episode.